What's the difference between a healthy boundary and someone just being controlling? Let's unpack. So a simple distinction to start with. A boundary regulates me. Control regulates you. And then we need to layer into this, is it a healthy and or realistic expectation of that boundary? So for example, for me, if I'm in a disagreement with someone and they raise their voice, it makes me feel unsafe. So if I am having a discussion with someone and they continue to raise their voice, I will remove myself from that situation. That is a healthy boundary. Another example is even if you've got someone, say a family member, you have two different political views. Every time they bring it up, you two devolve into an argument. So it may be a healthy boundary to say, when I talk to you, we are not going to talk about politics because every single time this happens, things devolve. I don't want that for us. So if you bring up politics, I will remind you, don't want to talk about it. And if you continue to bring it up, I'm going to finish the conversation and just leave it there until we chat next time. Healthy boundary because it is a realistic set of expectations for healthy engagement in that dynamic. Another very simple boundary that many people understand, monogamy. I appreciate monogamy. I'm not going to stay in a relationship with someone who is non-monogamous. Now, if we look at the other side of the coin, let's look at controlling behaviors. So for example, you're not allowed to talk to any other females because it makes me anxious, or it can be you can't talk to any other males because it makes me anxious. This can be co-workers, other family members, platonic friends, something that is completely benign, but the other person is unable to emotionally regulate themselves because of their own insecurities. So they are trying to control your behavior to manage their internal dysregulated emotional state. That's not a boundary, that is unhealthy control. And another example that sort of stems off this is you have to share your location with me all the time because I need to know where you are because I don't trust you. Now, there might be situations where for someone's safety, or if there have been previous instances of infidelity, that might sort of be something that you negotiate or it is appropriate. But in general, let's say it's a new relationship and you've never given this person any reason to doubt you, to mistrust you, but they do because of whatever they're bringing to the situation and they're wanting that expectation. So for me, that isn't a boundary. That is unhealthy controlling behavior. So essentially, one of the key differences between a boundary and controlling behaviors is if the boundary dictates another person's behavior, choices, autonomy, or relationships that they have in their life, it's not a boundary, it is a control mechanism, which is usually rooted in fear, trauma, or past relational wounds. Now, manipulation can be conscious or unconscious. Irrespective of this, the outcome is the same. It's a person trying to manage their internal anxiety by managing someone else's external behavior. So for many people, when it's unconscious and it's rooted in anxiety, it's not because they are crazy, it's not because they are malicious. It's often because their system is scared, unhealed, and trying to preempt danger. Doesn't mean that it's okay. It is definitely an area that would need working on. And it's like many other things. The intent and what the driver is behind it doesn't necessarily negate or erase the harm of the person on the receiving end of it. So this simple test can help you identify whether or not something is a realistic, healthy boundary or if it is controlling behavior. A healthy boundary protects your well-being. It communicates your needs. It leaves others free to choose what behavior that they are going to engage in. It includes you taking action if the boundary is crossed and it violates something that is reasonable and healthy within you. And with this, it also works if the other person says no, because either way you are protected. So with that monogamy example, I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who is non-monogamous. So you're either going to be monogamous because that protects me and my values and my sense of relational safety, or you're going to end the relationship and we're not going to be in that relationship. And that also maintains my relational and emotional safety because we are no longer in a relationship that I might be cheated on in. And on that point, the healthy boundary will work even if the other person says no or doesn't engage in that, because you are either going to get the healthy positive behavior or they are going to remove themselves from the dynamic, or you are going to end the conversation, whatever the boundary is. And lastly, which is very important, a healthy boundary doesn't require monitoring, restricting, or policing someone else. Now, in contrast, a control-based boundary might look like this. It manages someone else's choices. It imposes rules to reduce that person's dysregulated and often unreasonable or unrealistic anxieties. They often require surveillance, checking, or compliance. They will often remove the other person's autonomy, and there is often punitive consequences of this, or punishment. So are control-based boundaries manipulation? Yeah, kind of, but the intent does matter. because sometimes they can be driven from unconscious trauma responses, dysregulated survival strategies, which sort of feeds into protective strategies. Either way, they're not really healthy or helpful. Now, where I hope that this information can be helpful to you is being able to identify if someone is trying to put in place a healthy, rational, realistic boundary for you and your relationship, or is someone trying to consciously or unconsciously manipulate the dynamic based on their own internal anxieties. And if you're able to differentiate this a little bit better, then you can hopefully engage and support and identify some of your own boundaries with these people.